Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new session with Rights and Responsibilities Awareness Initiative. Today, we are lucky again to have Daniel and Megan from Liberal Credit Union to talk to us about financial wellness for seniors. Dan and Megan, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for having us here again, Haitham. So Megan and I will start by introducing ourselves just briefly, and then we'll get into the presentation today. So as Haitham mentioned, my name is Daniel Barreiras. I'm here from Libro Credit Union. I'm a personal banking specialist there, so I open up accounts. I talk a lot about credit and kind of coaching our clients or our owners to prosperity. But I really like getting out and into the community and sharing these financial literacy sessions.
And my name is Megan Deslippe, and I'm an investment specialist with Libro. So my role focuses more on talking about saving money and investing. If you were able to tune in for our RSP and tax-free savings account conversation the other day, that's more what I specialize in. But part of my role does talk about financial wellness for seniors as well. So I'm excited to share this presentation with you tonight.
So again, thank you very much for having us today and for everyone for tuning in. Just a little bit about this Each One Teach One series. It's a national program that was created to educate and empower people who have traditionally had difficulty accessing financial services. And just to be clear, this is not a forum for banks or credit unions to try to sell products or services to anyone here. So you can relax knowing that you're not going to be asked to sign up for anything. This is just to share financial info. So what we'll learn today is a little bit about financial abuse, who, what, and who is tended to be targeted for financial abuse, what financial abuse is, why someone might try to financially abuse someone else, how to spot counterfeit banknotes or cash, counterfeit cash, some advanced planning tools for later on in life, and other resources, and much more. So first, we'll start with what is financial abuse. So financial abuse is theft of money, property, or personal information. It can also include the misuse of money or property or withholding funds. Usually, it's a pattern rather than a single event, occurring over a long period of time, and may not even be detected until funds are severely or depleted. Financial abuse can negatively impact your health by reducing the resources available for proper housing, good nutrition, medication, and healthy connections. It's possible or even likely that you know someone who has been financially abused or a victim of financial abuse in the past. We'll get this going with a bit of a true or false question. So financial abusers of seniors are often strangers to their victims. So would you think that's true or false? The answer to the question is false. According to experts, financial abuse typically involves trusted family members, friends, or neighbors. Worse still, financial abuse accounts for over half of all reported situations of elder abuse. So if that's true, then who might you trust? In many instances, the people taking advantage of someone financially may be those that are known and trusted. A financial abuser may be a trusted person in your life, such as a spouse, an adult child, a grandchild, other family members, a caregiver, a friend, or even a neighbor. It may be worrying to consider that you or your family may be targeted by the people you trust, but don't worry. Today, you'll learn how to protect yourselves from financial abuse as well as any loved ones. In the meantime, if you feel like you or somebody you know may already be a victim of financial abuse, please feel free to speak with me after the presentation. Or obviously a great spot to start would be with the financial institution where the funds are held. So why do you think financial abusers target seniors? There can be many reasons, but we find the perpetrators of financial abuse target seniors because they see seniors as vulnerable and easily taken advantage of. What's more, they may make any number of the following assumptions about older adults. So seniors may not survive long enough to follow through with any legal interventions. They may be unsophisticated about financial matters, or they may not realize the value of their assets, particularly their homes that have usually appreciated significantly in value. Older people are also more likely to receive assistance with daily activities such as finances and home maintenance, which presents more opportunities for abuse. In the end, abusers believe that targeting seniors will allow them to get away with it. Fortunately, by educating ourselves, we can take steps toward preventing these abuses from ever happening. So on to health and mental capacity. I'll ask a few questions just to kind of draw some or bring up some thoughts. How many people here have insurance on their home or their car? Likely most, or if not all of us, hopefully all of us. How many people have a plan in place for a sudden long-term health issue related to aging, like dementia or diabetes? How many people have a plan in place for if they suddenly lose the capacity to make decisions for themselves? So we purchase home and car insurance to protect ourselves from possible disaster. It's not certain that we'll get into a car accident or that our home will be flooded, but we plan for it anyway. But many fewer of us take the time to create a plan for what we'll do if we lose our mental and legal capacity to make our own decisions about our lives and finances. Without a plan, we open ourselves up to the risk of financial abuse. It's important to acknowledge here that as we age, our bodies and minds undergo changes, and we may eventually find ourselves in a position where we're personally and legally no longer able to take care of ourselves. We may lose our mental capacity. You're presumed to have mental capacity until established otherwise, usually by a medical opinion or a judge's decision. Loss of capacity can be sudden and obvious. For example, in an accident, if you're in an accident and you cannot make financial decisions, and someone will be appointed to be your substitute decision maker. However, sometimes loss of capacity, it can be gradual and less clear, like with dementia. So there are warning signs. There are several warning signs that may indicate that a person is being made a victim of financial abuse. For instance, if a trusted person, such as a family member or friend, begins exhibiting any of the following behaviors, it may be that they are taking advantage of a situation for financial gain. So be wary if a trusted person takes an interest or becomes involved in your financial matters. For example, if they suggest your statements be sent to them or that you stop receiving statements, they may be taking advantage of you. Be wary if a trusted person pressures you to give or lend them money, or be wary if a trusted person suggests you to make changes to important contracts, such as your will, your power of attorney, your property, or your mortgage. Also, if you notice that you're having trouble meeting your financial obligations, especially when you've never had problems in the past, it may be a warning sign that there is something wrong and that somebody may be using your assets without your knowledge or your express permission. And finally, follow up with any unfamiliar transactions on your bank account or credit card statements. It could be that someone is using your account without your knowledge. Financial abuse can take many forms, and it may not always be obvious that it is abuse. That said, there are several forms exploitation may take, and it's a great idea to understand them in order to protect yourself. Financial abuse may involve pressure, especially pressure to make an urgent financial decision. A simple example of that could be some scams. Actually, when someone calls and they try to pressure you to pay them because they might be the quote unquote CRA. And if you don't pay them right away, then the police will be knocking at your door. A removal of decision-making power. For instance, if a trusted person claims that you are no longer capable of making decisions for yourself and that you should let them decide for you, well, this may be exploitation. Removal of control over assets. Be wary of anybody who tells you you're no longer capable of managing your own assets and finances. Non-repayment of debts. If a trusted person borrows money and doesn't return it, saying it's no big deal and that they'll pay you back eventually, they may be taking advantage of you. And invasion of privacy. If someone is pestering you for financial information or personal information, especially if that info pertains to your finances, it may be a strong sign that they're looking to take advantage of you. So how do we prevent financial abuse? Unfortunately, financial abuse does not stop on its own. It may even require the intervention of the police and court system. However, by taking a proactive approach, you can minimize your exposure to certain kinds of risks. Here are a few ways of preventing financial abuse before it happens. Be wary of phone or email requests asking for banking or personal information. Your financial institution will not call you to ask for this type of information. Keep your financial and personal information, including personal identification numbers, in a safe place. And keep track of your accounts and legal documents. Sorry, a few other suggestions or ideas would be to keep a record of financial transactions and changes to legal documents, for example, a change to a will. Read any contracts and other documents carefully, or consult with a lawyer or someone you trust before signing the papers. And for any major decisions involving your home or other property, get your own professional legal advice before signing any documents. So what can be done about financial abuse? So should you or your family find yourself in a situation where you're the victim of financial exploitation, there are several actions you can take. The first thing you should do is seek legal advice immediately. A lawyer will be able to advise you on the proper course of action for stopping the abuse, preventing future abuses, and will also counsel you on what to do to recover your assets or funds or repair your credit. In any situation where you suspect financial abuse, it's a good first step to seek professional help and to do so as soon as possible. That could also mean talking with your financial institution, ideally someone who you know and trust there. A lawyer may advise that you get a court order to freeze your assets at your financial institution. This will stop the financial abuser from continuing to take advantage of the situation and may limit future abuses as well. The next step will be to try to recover any stolen assets, which may require civil or even criminal trial. Again, this is something that a lawyer would discuss with a victim, but remember, it's up to you to protect your financial wellness. Don't let yourself be a victim. If you believe that you've been taken advantage of by a loved one, get legal advice and contact authorities if necessary. So counterfeit banknotes or fraudulent bills. So seniors are often targeted to pass counterfeit notes without realizing it in everyday transactions, sometimes even by friends, family, or businesses. By taking a few minutes to learn about the difference between real and counterfeit bills, you can protect yourself from future headaches. In the next few slides, courtesy of the Bank of Canada, you'll learn how to properly identify real bills. Sometimes a counterfeit bill can be obvious to notice, but some counterfeit bills are very, very good and they're difficult to notice. Even staff at financial institutions who handle cash every day can have a difficult time noticing these. So just trying to stay alert and be careful is the first step. So the first step would be to feel the note. A real banknote or a real bill is made of polymer and has a very distinct texture. Touching a banknote is the first step in determining whether it's real or fake. Second is the look. A real banknote has a number of visual features, including transparent areas and fine details that are easily identified on site. For example, you can see on this $20 bill here, there's the frosted maple leaf window. There's the metallic portrait of the Queen in that strip on the right-hand side near the top right corner. And there's the metallic building there too. When you tilt the note, you should see sharp color changes in the building and the Queen up top. There is transparent text and small numbers. So transparent text that reads Canada can be found between the metallic portrait and the metallic building. I'm not sure if people can see my mouse, just kind of right around there. Those letters, they feel slightly raised. Small numbers matching the note's value appear in and around the large window. I believe that's in both areas. That's over here on the left where that leaf is, and then on the right on that metallic strip. You'll also see that some of the numbers appear in reverse too when you're looking at the bill. And then the last step is flip. Flipping the note over to look at the backside will reveal additional security features. So after you've felt the bill and looked at it, you should flip it over. On the opposite side, you should see the features in the large window repeated in the same colors and detail on the other side. There you go. That's the flipped image of that bill. So checking your cash. So counterfeit money in Canada has been on the decline, partly because businesses around the country are becoming more routine about checking money before it goes into the till. For every 1 million notes circulating in 2012, only 28 were counterfeit. And that's down from a high of 34 counterfeits per million notes in 2011. So only a year earlier. With the introduction of polymer notes, the Bank of Canada aims to keep counterfeiting levels low. But while new polymer notes are more secure, you'll only benefit from this change if you check this security features to stay ahead of counterfeiting. So make sure you check any bills before you accept them. Remember that when checking a suspicious bill, especially if you're unsure about the security features to look for, you can always compare it to a bill that you know is real. And don't be afraid to ask for a recent bill if you don't know how to check an old one. So by taking these few easy steps, you can save yourself money and aggravation and protect yourself from financial abuse. Lastly, remember that you can take advantage of the Bank of Canada's free training tools to help you verify genuine Canadian banknotes. There will be more info about how to access these tools at the end of this presentation. So if you're dealing with suspicious money, if you suspect that a bill that's been presented to you is suspicious, you can politely refuse the note and explain to the purchaser or the person that's giving it to you that it might be counterfeit. You can ask them for another copy, or you can inform the police if you feel that the person is intentionally giving you that bill. If it's only after a transaction that you notice or suspect that a bill may be counterfeit, you can contact your financial institution or give it to the local police. If the bill is real, you'll get it back. Either way, the police, however, should be notified of any possible counterfeiting because they may be aware of counterfeiting in the area, or they could be tracking trends. And now I'll pass this over to Megan to talk a little bit about any advanced planning tools.
Thank you, Dan. Before I continue, Haitham, do we have any questions in the chat yet?
So far, no, but I do have some, but I'll leave them to the end of the presentation, my friend.
Sounds good. Thank you. Next, I'm going to talk about advanced planning tools. It's important to have a plan in place for dealing with your personal and financial security, especially as you age. In this section, we're going to look at some of the advanced planning options that will help secure your financial wellness for the future. These include a will, power of attorney, joint account, and representation agreement. When dealing with advanced planning, especially as it pertains to securing your lasting financial wellness, your last will and testament is the first piece of planning you should look to. It's an extremely important part of your financial plan, as it's the document that determines what happens to your assets and property when you pass away. It allows you to control what happens and enables you to better protect yourself and your loved ones from fraud and financial exploitation. Regardless of your age, it's always a good idea to have an up-to-date will. In general, it's a good idea to review your will every 5 years or so, or following any major life change such as divorce, death, or separation. However, be careful when making changes to your will, as they can have lasting impacts on the lives of your family members. Always consider seeking professional legal advice when making any changes to your will. Power of attorney is a written document that allows another person to act on your behalf, authorizing them to deal with financial and legal matters in your name. So it allows someone to manage your affairs when you're no longer able to, or even when you're able to, if you want someone to be able to take care of financial matters on your behalf. Power of attorney, it can also be known as POA, comes with a host of powers, restrictions, and responsibilities. And like when you're making changes to your will, when you're designating a power of attorney, it's best to consult with a lawyer and really make a careful decision, as this will have lasting impact on you and your family members. There are some restrictions in place. For example, your power of attorney cannot change your will, and they cannot assign someone else to be power of attorney for you. They're the only ones that can act on your behalf. Granting a power of attorney is not a decision to be taken lightly, and it's best done with the consultation of a legal professional. So there are some advantages to a power of attorney. They can be easy to appoint and change. They're relatively inexpensive. And you can opt for conditions with a power of attorney. So for example, you could say that it only comes into effect when you become mentally incapable of your own finances, or you can choose to leave it open to come into effect the day that it's signed. And all sorts of other conditions that can be put in place that you can discuss with your legal professional as well. Some suggestions to reduce the risk of abuse by your attorney. Once again, very important to make sure that this is going to be a person that you trust and will, they're required to act in your best interest, but financial institutions aren't able to stop them and determine if they're acting in your best interest or not. So if your power of attorney comes into the bank to withdraw $1,000 and we don't think they're using it for your best interest, we're not able to stop them from taking out that money because they have the legal right to do so. So to reduce the risk of abuse, you should have the power of attorney document held in safekeeping until needed. You could also discuss appointing 2 attorneys who must act together. So if you had 2 trusted people in your life, you could make it so that the only time they're able to make financial decisions is if they both agree on it. That might not be reasonable if you want someone that's able to do your daily banking for you, if that's going to be possible for the 2 people you're appointing to act together on every circumstance, every time you want a bill paid, to have 2 people sign off on it. But it is an option to reduce the risk of abuse. And another thing you could look at is appointing a corporate party to act as your power of attorney. So there are some companies that offer services of acting as your power of attorney. So give some thought to who you would choose when granting a power of attorney. It's not always obvious who the best person is to take on the responsibility. Many people assign the power to their spouses. However, a spouse is not always the best choice, since they may be in a situation of crisis if you're mentally incapacitated. Can your spouse take on the additional responsibility at such a difficult time? So you want to make sure that when you're appointing, oh, sorry, Dan, can you go back? Thank you. You want to make sure when you're appointing a power of attorney, it's someone that understands and respects your values and wishes, understands and respects their duties as an attorney and are going to act in your best interest, are good with details and record keeping, and make good decisions about their own finances as well. So what happens if a person doesn't have a power of attorney? The power typically falls to the public trustee of the province you live in, who will appoint a decision maker. The decision maker may not be the person you would choose or want to manage your affairs, and there are costs involved in having the public trustee intervene. In these cases, family members might have to apply to the courts to be given power of attorney, which has a fee as well and could cost over $5,000. In most instances, it's better to actively establish power of attorney rather than letting it fall to the government. And it's important to plan out a power of attorney in advance of needing to get to this stage. Another tool for managing your financial affairs is a joint bank account. Who here has a joint bank account currently, if you're open to sharing that? A joint bank account is an account owned in whole by 2 or more parties. With a joint bank account, and can you go to the next slide, Dan? Thank you. Everything is owned by both parties. So if Dan and I have a joint bank account, we both own 100% of that account, and I can go in and take all the money out, and so could Dan. The advantage is it allows you to give someone else shared responsibility of paying your bills and managing your finances. So if Dan and I had a joint bank account and we were looking to pay some bills, he would be able to pay bills in my name and me in his, as our account is joint together. However, there are some risks. The biggest is that one party may decide to drain the bank account of funds, which they would be able to do since it's their own as much as it is the other party's. So we recommend that you consult experts at your financial institution or seek legal advice before naming anyone as joint on your account. There could be restrictions placed as well. So in the banking world, we call it a two to sign. So what that means is kind of like having your powers of attorney having to act together. If Dan and I wanted to establish a joint account together, we could say that both of us need to be there to make any transactions on the account, which would include any withdrawals. That wouldn't allow one of us to pay bills on the other person's behalf, though, with having two people required to make transactions. So this was a lot of information at today's session. We talked about the counterfeit checks, seniors' financial abuse, and then we talked about wills and power of attorney. And this workshop is an introduction, and it can definitely raise many new questions. I encourage you to type your questions into the chat, and Haitham will read them out here. But we also have some fantastic resources as well. So there's the, oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
The Canadian Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, the Canadian Network for Prevention, the Canada Government Elder Abuse Awareness, the Federal, Provincial, Territorial Ministers Responsible for Seniors Forum. That doesn't flow very well. And Speak Up Advanced Care Planning Campaign. So I encourage you to type your questions in the chat. We'll answer as many as we're able to, but then also these resources are great options as well for the information we covered today.
Thank you, Megan. Actually, we've got a question that many of financial abuse for the seniors are focused on the emotional aspect of the person. How this could be identified and prevented?
So I think they're asking how the financial abuse can be prevented in the future. Does that sound right?
Yeah, and taking into consideration that when it's came from someone who's close to the family, to the senior, that would focus on the emotional side of the game. So, for example, if I may put an answer here, never hesitate to say no. When you are not feeling comfortable, just say no whenever.
That's a great answer, Haitham. And I think that would be my biggest takeaway. Having a open conversation with family members, I think would be helpful as well to make them aware of the warning signs. At least financial abuse is very concerning. But if people are aware of it, then they might understand more and see the red flags if that starts to happen. I think most financial abuse cases don't start with large amounts of money, but it starts small and it builds up. So having a good relationship with the seniors in your life, being open about things that can happen, and hopefully then if there are some small red flags, then they'll bring those warning signs to light and you can take action sooner.
Thank you, Megan. So we've got another question. Is there any available resources that could help to identify the fake banknotes?
That's a good question.
You did say the Bank of Canada in your chat, right, Dan?
Yes. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm realizing now that there's no Bank of Canada site here. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I had a link here in this presentation. I can find that though, because I know that our tellers would have that readily available to them. So I'm sorry, while I don't have it available right now, if you'd like, Hatham, I can share it with you afterwards, and I'm not sure if you'd be able to add that link as another resource attached to this video.
By all means, please. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so is there any criminal aspect of the financial abuse for the seniors? I know that maybe you might not be the legal experts, but according to your best knowledge.
Is there any criminal action that or
Aspects, I do believe that the question is all about if there is any, what if somebody has been, accused with being an abuser financially, what is the criminal code of Canada might say to that?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if Megan or I would be able to answer that. I think that would be a question that would be best directed towards a lawyer. We would only be able to act or give advice specifically about the account itself, not necessarily regarding any legal matters.
So much. So I'm encouraging our audience here. If you have any question, please type it to the chat on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. I'm reviewing if we have any more questions. Seems that we don't so far.
I think I had mentioned earlier, if you suspect that you or someone you know is a victim of financial abuse, then yes, contact the financial institution and contact a lawyer immediately. The financial institution can help to possibly limit or reduce any access to the account, or limit or reduce the amount of abuse, financial abuse, that someone is being a victim of. And the lawyer can help hopefully prevent it from continuing in the future, and possibly even recovering some of the lost funds.
I do believe that sooner is better always, right?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I'm giving our social media platform another look to check if there's any more questions. Okay, so thank you so much, Megan, Dan, for this fruitful presentation. Hopefully this would help to reduce any potential financial abuse to seniors and to non-seniors as well. And hopefully this awareness would got some positive impact into our community.
We spoke a lot today about seniors, but it's not just seniors who are victims of financial abuse. It can be anyone. So again, if you suspect it at all, speak up, ask for help or advice from a financial institution or a legal expert.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Megan, for joining us today, and have yourself wonderful rest of your night.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thanks again for having us, Hatham. Have a good evening.
You too.